Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of Mantra Talks with Industry Experts, an initiative by Mantra Labs and InsurTech 100 firm building products and solutions for the changing world. Undoubtedly, the outbreak of pandemic COVID-19 has affected the global economy. It has disrupted global supply chains, international trade, and the lockdown measures and travel restrictions have hit businesses across industries. So we thought about interviewing industry experts across various industries to get a sense of current situation and try to find possible mitigation strategies and long-term business opportunities. Today, we have a very special guest from a renowned food delivery app company in India and a renowned personality in the design community. An IIT engineer by qualification, but a designer by choice, he has worked with some of well-known startups of India like Housing.com, Zeta, and many other big and small names around the world. Currently, he works as a product design manager at India's largest food ordering and delivery platform, Swiggy. An avid traveler and a TEDx speaker, he has delivered 50 plus UX talks and workshops at various places, including big names like Amazon, Grab, Shopee, Practo, IDC IIT Bombay, IIT Guwahati, NID Bangalore, and so on. He loves solving problems and chose digital experience designing as his profession because he believes that problem solving can go well beyond the limits of engineering. Mr. Saptarshi Prakash, a very warm welcome on behalf of Mantra Labs.
Thanks for inviting me, Divya. It feels great to be a part of this.
All right, so diving right into it, I would like to, can you tell us something more about your YouTube channel, your latest project, adding to your list of credentials?
Well, thank you. Thanks for the flattering introduction. So, in the introduction, you've seen that I speak a lot. Yeah, I speak a lot at different places, be it conferences or companies or colleges. So most of my talks are about design. So, the way I explain design, I feel it's my own way. I use various analogies and various explanations and examples. Of course, I do it in the regular time when it's not locked down by COVID. I do it with my friend Ramakrishna. So, many of the content, it's him and I, we have built it together. But I feel in general, since I haven't gone to a college to study design, I have a different perspective of looking into the things. There are lots of these new things which I've learned myself over time from internet or different places. And I explain them in a way which I feel is easily understandable from someone who hasn't been to a college. So that's what I have always done in my talks. And I always wanted to start a YouTube channel because I feel, there are people who need my help. There are people who would want to listen to me. So now that it's a lockdown and all, and people are spending more time over this streaming platform, I thought this is a good time. Let's start. Let's see how it works out.
Yes, I think it's a very good use of the current situation, and I'm sure it will be beneficial for people like me as well who are not from a design community to understand design better.
Sure, I hope so.
All right, so diving into the current COVID crisis.
Sure.
Can't ignore it. It's become a part of our life.
Oh, yes.
And right now, the online food delivery services market is also taking the brunt of the situation. Yeah. However, although everyone is staying at home, they still need food. They still need to eat, and it's an essential part of survival. So food and grocery delivery services have experienced a surge in demand. Recently, some restaurant partners on food delivery platforms have also started to double down as grocers. So as the demand for hyperlocal grocery and daily supplies continue to grow, how is Swiggy adapting to anticipatory changes in the marketplace model?
Oh yeah, like we all know about the situation which is outside, and well, honestly speaking, many of the things that the changes that you see on the Swiggy app are not anticipatory as such. It was not driven by the COVID situation as such, because we had plans of all these things. Of course, if you have been using Swiggy, you would see a lot of different new services and the new things that we are doing over the app. These were all a part of our plan, and we have been working and thinking about that. And in fact, many of those things were also live in different cities, maybe not available in every city, but grocery or the concierge services or medicine delivery or pet supplies. These things were live in different places. We used to bundle it under one term called Swiggy stores. What happened with COVID was things got accelerated because when COVID situation, all this lockdown and all happened, and there was a surge in the demand of food, groceries, and other essential services, we felt that, you know what, this is the right time to scale it in the way we always wanted to. But we were just playing slow. Okay, slowly we will do it. Maybe we will move it to one city at a time, or one category at a time. So COVID accelerated all these ideas that we had, and like things are moving really fast now. I mean, which also means that the past 1 or 2 months had been extremely hectic for the whole team, not just for the design team, the entire Swiggy team as such. And I'm sure it's same with many other companies who are working in this sector. So, we have been shipping things like really fast. We build something overnight, and within a day or two, we would want some version of it to be live, because that's the need of the hour.
Absolutely, a very correct point. Many businesses, many companies have accelerated their operations, including one of our fields, which is insurtech, and insurance as a field wherein the sector is very traditional in thinking, in mindset, have actually accelerated their technological platforms. So I think COVID has given that much needed impetus for many industries.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So,
It's creating a dent in the industry and into our lives, which will probably never change. You never know. The changes that are happening could even be permanent to a good extent.
True. That's very true. I have a follow-up question. So going forward, how does the business opportunities for Swiggy look like in the coming months? Do you see an upsurge in demand, or will some verticals will have to face some challenges?
Well, what happens in the future, it's with the future. I probably am not the right person to predict it. But if you ask me personally, I feel all the things that we are selling over our platform, or all the services that we're offering on our platform, are pretty basic. They're the basic needs. So there's nothing fancy. It's not that something that would do on a special day. So all these things are all the things that you would need on a regular day, be it your food, groceries, or medicines, or whatever else that we are doing. So going by that logic, I see the demand remaining. And we have been receiving a good response from different users, from the tweets and the various feedback that we are receiving for the new categories and the new services that we are providing. Yeah, of course, there's a dip in the volume of food orders that we used to receive before. I mean, there's no denial in that, but things are growing, because you see, I mean, I have reduced my ordering to some extent. Right? Although I work for the company and I know the different measures that are being taken, and the different hygiene and safety measures our restaurant partners, delivery partners, everyone is taking. But in spite of that, my personal trend had been that I have reduced it a little bit. Maybe if I was ordering 4 to 5 times a week before, now I have reduced it to once or twice, maybe on the weekends for some special food or something. So that's a change. When that change has come to me as an internal person, and it's quite valid if similar change comes to somebody else, because we all are worried. There's a bit of concern about security in our minds. But having said that, these are really important things. You may feel that, okay, I'm going to cook today, I'm going to clean my utensils, I'm going to buy groceries and do everything from the scratch. But then once you start doing, your reality strikes, and then you realize that probably it's not a very sustainable thing. And I'm sure all of us have blisters on our hands from all the dish scrubbing. So you always look for an easier way out. So yeah, so in that way, I see trends going in a positive way. But having said that, it's little lower than before, the way it used to be in the business as usual days. And regarding the new categories, I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful because it's solving a very niche sector. It's solving a very important sector, I would say, and it should grow. I'm hoping the next couple of months, at least 6 months or so, is going to be really exciting here at Swiggy.
Oh, wonderful. So talking about the mindset of consumers, as you pointed out about the way people behave. I mean, they'll be extra cautious about hygiene, about precautions, safety precautions, and health. So, what were the challenges from a design standpoint in communicating these hygiene and safety precautions and health of delivery partners on the platform to the consumers, to the customers?
Trust is that kind of a thing. It's very easy to break but very difficult to gain, right? Now, one small instance that happens in the market, some news pops up saying that somebody is a spreader or somebody has been diagnosed. It affects the mind of the people and the trust suddenly goes down, something that has built over time. But the best that we can do from our sides is to do anything and everything possible within the app or within the entire ecosystem, I would say, be it social media or any kind of communication that Swiggy as a company is doing. So we are consistently doing all these things. One of the key things that we are doing across the organization, not only with respect to our users, but also within the internal stakeholders and the team members, is over communication. Because everyone is working remote right now, and yeah, I mean, we are talking remote right now, right?
Yeah.
So last 2 months we have been working remote. We haven't seen the real faces of the people, our colleagues. So it is very important that when talking or when communication is not happening face to face, there are things which get missed. There could be information getting missed. There could be emotions getting missed. I could have used certain words to express something, but the fact that you're not seeing my face or you're not standing in front of me, it could mean a completely different thing because emotions are translated in a different way. So as an organization, we have been over communicating everywhere across. We are sending bigger mails, we are sending bigger messages, we are sending more messages so as to make things crystal clear. And I see a lot of that getting reflected in our products as well, in the app as well. You would see in different steps, almost every step we are reinstating about the fact that, hey, this is safe. They are being tested of their body temperatures every day, or they're wearing masks, they're using gloves, they're sanitizing their hands, or there are contactless delivery, and this is what you can do. These are the measures that you're taking. So in every step, we are over communicating. Now, if you ask me, is over communicating the solution? I do not know, but it's one of the things that we can do, and we are doing it. Because it is not a 1 or 0 thing that I tell you and you understand and then it. It's about although you hear me, but you'll have to believe me to actually go and start using it. So bringing that genuinity and that trust is a challenge. I think that's the biggest challenge that we designers, at least, or design or the product folks, are facing at Swiggy, and I'm sure the case is same in every company.
Yes, trust, building the customer relationship has become a very important aspect for every company,
Yeah.
be it B2C or B2B.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, speaking about new normal, it's a buzzword, like everybody knows how we are already talking about the way we are working has become a part of our life.
Correct.
So speaking a little broadly, how has this pandemic crisis impacted the role of a digital product designer, specifically in addressing these evolving consumer behaviors? Because it's unpredictable and very volatile, and not sure how will the people react in coming months. So, what do you think is the role of a digital product designer in this area?
I always say that being a good product designer is all about making the right trade-offs. The world is not perfect. The situations are not perfect. Although we know how to do it in the perfect way, but situations aren't such that you get to do that perfect thing every single time. So the key lies in how skilled you are so that you make the right trade-offs and then you get good results. So of all these things, emotions or trust used to be one part of product design. Speaking from a consumer design point of view, so I primarily work in the consumer side of products at Swiggy. So speaking from that angle, there were many other things, but trust was one of the things. There were a lot of things we could take for granted. For example, Swiggy is a well-known company. And the fact that Swiggy is saying something that, hey, this is clean, or this is excellent hygiene, or good hygiene, or there are stuff that we're doing, people would believe on a normal day. But now, since the days are not normal, so the brand value of Swiggy alone has lesser leverage that we can get out of it. Because yes, Swiggy is a big brand, But now the situations are different. So people are not even trusting completely, even though a big brand is telling you that, hey, this is good or this is excellent. So that's where the additional challenge comes up. Think of it like if there was a new company or a fairly new company into the food delivery sector, which is trying to get popular and compete with the bigger players. Think of the struggle that they would get into, to convince the customers that they are equally good, if not better than the other bigger players. So, we are almost in that phase right now where, we are trying out ingenious ways or what can we do to, solve a certain problem and make the users believe something, or bringing in a new category and serving a slightly different problem than what we were solving before and all. And also with the newer lockdown norms of containment zones and all coming in. So even operationally, we might have to think of different ways of delivery, so that your area is cordoned off, right? So people are not allowed to enter. So that how do you deliver something to someone who's inside, or how do you deliver something to someone who's outside? So these are the newer problems which you never had to face before. It's something that we as an organization, Swiggy, we are doing it. And the challenges are similar on the other side as well. So we also have different teams who works on the supply side of products or the delivery side of products. So they have all the challenges that I've spoken about in this side. The similar challenges in a slightly different form exists on those verticals as well. So in short, we all are getting to solve different problems which a company like Swiggy never had to bother before, because certain things were taken care of. Now things are gone a little behind in time in terms of these decisions. So I think this is a very big paradigm shift, at least in case of Swiggy. If you ask about general product design, I'm sure different domains and different industries have figured out their own ways or own newer problems which they need to solve right now. I have seen many travel companies getting into food delivery because travel is completely halted. So they need to do something. So they need to do something using their existing technology which would solve a relevant problem. So I'm sure it's a very new thing for them as well. Someone who has always been thinking about, say, hotel booking or flight booking suddenly starts thinking about food delivery, or what food to give or what grocery to give. So everyone is doing new things. So here the trade-off, I don't think anyone right now is judging about how easy this flow is or how perfect it is for the user, because that has kind of become secondary right now, although it used to be the primary in a normal time. Now it's all about how can I gain the trust of the consumer? How can consumers believe that this is the right place where I can do it from? Or how do I make someone buy from my newer categories? So suddenly these new problems have popped up. So people are doing something that they're not used to. So it's good. It's challenging. It's nice.
True. I mean, so here's one word: personalization. It's a problem and as well as a solution. How you do it, that's a difficulty. Because I think because of the lockdowns, adding that personal touch, that physical interaction has been difficult. And that's why, especially in B2B industries, they are facing this problem in making sales as to how can I create that personalization for this. Is that an issue with food delivery apps as well, and what are you doing to add that personal element, because that is a key driver as well?
Yeah, it certainly is, especially for a consumer product like ours. Personalization has always been one of our ways of going about, right? Because what you like or what works for you doesn't work for me. So we used to have set categorization. These are the different kinds of personas. These are the different kinds of our users. And what works for, say, our persona 1 doesn't work for our persona 2, and things needs to be done different for a persona 3, and so on and so forth. Now what has happened is the personas have changed. Things are all mixed up because the priorities of everyone has changed slightly, right? And those primary priorities trickles down to secondary and tertiary things. So essentially all these classifications that were done once upon a time based on multiple criteria, they kind of got diluted a bit and they kind of got mixed a bit. So that's not really a challenge, because that anyways happens over time, but just that it has happened over a very shorter time, within a month or so, it has happened because of the entire COVID thing. So, our user research is still on. Although a lot of these used to happen at a personal level, where our team would meet the real users, speak to them, and try and understand a lot of things. Now all those things are again happening over, say, video chats or maybe phone call. So
Hmm.
there are certain challenges, but we are trying our best to overcome, right? So again, coming to your point from a personalization point of view, although I've said that a lot of our personas are like jumbled, and there's a lot of overlaps between them because of this new situation, but there are certain things which has got easier as well. For example, we now know that safety is a concern across the level. Like everyone's concern, safety is one of the primary concerns for everyone, right? So these are some of the standards which we know exist. It also makes our works a little easier to find out how these new personas would behave.
Interesting. So on that note, um, I wanted to talk about the research part that you just mentioned. Leading into 2020, customer experience had already risen to the top of the mind of global enterprises. So how do brands carry out high quality UX research and UX design for the projects in the time of Corona to drive engagement while delivering something unique and personalized at the same time?
Yeah, it's tough, like I've already told you, the challenges of some of the challenges of personalization or research maybe. But having said that, things are not impossible,
Hmm.
right? Things are going, like like we have said about new normal. So maybe this is the way of doing things in the new normal. So,
Hmm.
if I cancel out all the anomalies that has happened in the last 2 months, maybe this is normal and this is how you do, and maybe what you're doing is the right way. But we haven't figured out if this is the best way of doing. What we do on a BAU time and business as usual when things are fine,
Hmm.
all those terminologies or the techniques that we use have been trickling down since years, that this is the way to go about, because there have been certain rules, regulations, and of course we tweak them based on our needs with the skills that we have.
Hmm.
But now, since the situation has changed, we are all trying to figure out what is the norm. I
Hmm.
think every company is trying to figure out what is the norm now, that this is the normal. Now that the normal has changed, what is the normal way of doing things? So we are
Hmm.
all attempting to find that. We are doing things which are, say, fine, working fine, but we are still not confident enough to say if this is the way of doing it in this situation.
Coming to the new norm or new normal that you pointed out, do you see innovations like touchless UI, gesture recognition, playing a larger role in the consumption of products and services?
In public products, yes, I certainly see the value. Like, when you said touchless UI, the first thing that comes to my mind is an ATM machine, maybe, right?
Yes,
so,
true.
so
The
is there a way I
riskiest.
can, is there a way I can withdraw money without having to touch a public machine, right? So yes,
Yeah.
that would be very interesting to see. But even before the lockdown had started, and when people were still talking about Corona, but we were still going to offices in the initial days, I've seen a lot of people using their elbows to open the doors, and all.
Yes.
Like by our office, luckily we have an automatic door. You walk and then it just opens, so we don't have to touch. But there are different places where the sanitizer dispersing machines were put
When-
up. Yeah. So one of those machines, you had to press a button and then get. But then would you touch that? That's another concern. Then a few days later, I saw we got a touchless machine. So you just put your hand under, it has a sensor and it dispenses. So, a lot of things already exist, right? Maybe we never felt the importance of them in our past world. We always had the wash basins where you put your hand under it and it just automatically, using sensors, it just works. So, maybe I personally never liked it because I felt the sensors never worked the right way. But now I
Hmm.
started to value that. I feel that something like that, a touchless interface, where I can wash my hands without having to touch anything, soap automatically dispense or water automatically dispense, is a great thing to have. So I certainly see, if this happens to be the new normal going forward, at least for a couple of years, I certainly see those kind of public things getting better. you know
Okay.
so they're getting better in terms of their performances. So that's something that I see happening.
So just a follow-up question over here, again on the role of a product designer. So do you think, what are the challenges will a product designer face in building these products with touchless user interfaces? I-
Yeah, so these are biggest. One challenge, it's very clear that whatever you could touch before. So human beings have five senses, right? So whenever we
Hmm.
design, we try and communicate, trying to use all these five senses that we have. Be it, of course, smell is something that we cannot use for digital interfaces so much. But you see something, you touch something, you feel something, and combining all these things, we would create experiences which the user could feel even though they are, say, sitting at a different place or remote. Now that when you're removing one of those five options, it gets a little challenging. So you won't be touching it, you won't be feeling anything. All that you will be doing is to by using your eyes and your ears, and maybe you will speak something to it. Voice interfaces, just like you saw. I was trying to turn on my
Yeah.
lights, and you saw how it fails at times. So, so I think those would be the challenges, because you're completely negating one thing that you had before. So that will give rise to a lot of different problems, that may give rise to a lot of different problems as it spreads out to the grassroots level. I feel that would be a big challenge.
True. Coming towards the research part again, I so I wanted to know your thoughts on what was the normal approach and what is the current approach towards UX research at Swiggy.
Okay, normal approach. Many things happen. I'm not the best person again, because I don't classify myself as a UX researcher. But having said that, if the need be, if my work asks me to do something, and in the absence of an expert, I can go and do user research. But having said that, I'm not the perfect person for it. But I can tell you what happens. So we have our own research agenda. There are things that we hypothesize, that we feel that maybe this is how it should be, right? So what research does is, or what analytics and data, everything does, it validates all our hypotheses, right? So that's how research, we have been leveraging research all this while. So it sometimes it's also a post design thing. So if we have launched something, we have released something based on certain assumptions or certain different research. Now that we have made, and if it has gone to the user, how is it performing? Is it performing the way we intended it to be, or are users using it the way it is intended to be, right? I mean, for example, this is a water bottle, right? So whoever has designed it might have designed for drinking water out of it. But I also see that this is stainless steel. So am I using it for driving nail into my wall? Because yes, I can potentially do using that. So these are the things. So are other things that we have designed being used in the way it is intended to be?
Hmm.
And if users are using it in a different way, can we do something so that that experience gets better? Because right now it is not
Hmm.
optimized for doing what the user is doing. So I'm just trying to give you examples. So these are the different kinds of validations that we look for when we do research, right? And one important part of research, like I have told you before, is to meeting people in person, and understand what is happening. And this is what gets really critical, because research isn't about, hey, how are you doing? I'm doing fine, thank you. No one bothers about, am I really feeling fine? Because whenever the question is, how are you, the answer is always, I'm fine. But
Hmm.
that's not where research ends. If I ask you, how was Swiggy, I'm sure your first answer would be, it's great, or it's good, right?
Hmm.
But that's not what
Hmm.
I'm looking for. But as
Yeah.
and when I talk to you more, as and when we both get more comfortable talking to each other and speaking about the problems, maybe me as a researcher will have to read between your lines, look into your expressions or your feelings when you're speaking, to understand if there is anything wrong in any place,
Hmm.
right? So it is not a normal conversation. So it's a different kind of conversation, and it needs certain amounts of skill, and physical presence is one of the important things, right? So so that's how it used to happen
Happen.
before. And now, like I had said, everything is resorted to phone, or it is resorted to some sort of a video call. So again, the challenges of a touchless UI that you were saying. So certain challenges our research are facing already. The challenge of not having a personal connect, because it's difficult to have that connect over a video call, right? And if it's a phone call, then the challenge of not being able to see each other's face while talking. because you read a lot of things from the face of the person in front of you, the expressions, the emotions, right? So all those things we are missing out. So these are very stark differences. And also who you are talking to. When a researcher is talking to a consumer like you or me, then that person maybe needs to be spoken in a different way. Then certain things needs to be done to make that person feel comfortable and actually speak about their experience. Versus when you're speaking to a delivery executive, the approaches are very different, right? So when all these things, say seeing or physical presence are being removed, things are getting slightly difficult. So yeah, that is primarily the difference between how it happens in a regular day versus how it happens on a COVID day.
All right. So coming to the Dribble account, actually, I wanted to know. So when you introduced Swiggy on Dribble, what was the ideology behind that? What were you? What was your thought behind it?
Okay, I introduced. Okay, I'm not sure how right a word that is, but yes, I was a part of that. It was one of my ideas that let's take the Swiggy design team online, because 2 years back when I joined, that was one of the things that the conversation that I had with my then potential manager, who's my present manager right now, that everyone talks about Swiggy being a great platform. It has a great design, but nobody knows who the faces behind those people are. They were not that popular team who everybody knows. Yeah. So I thought that needs to change. And luckily even the team felt that way, that what, we have been doing some wonderful work, and it's good that we go out and talk about it, or we post it somewhere so that people know that this is the individual who has done this, who has made this part of Swiggy. So that was my primary motive, when we started all these different social profiles of our Swiggy design, be it Dribble, be it Instagram, or be it Medium, where we write about our experiences. So yeah, that was the primary reason, because when you hear about the story of one of your favorite features on the Swiggy app, and when you read about it, you actually connect with the people, the challenges that a designer has gone through in building that. So next time when you're using that feature and you see something which is not so perfect, so you wouldn't probably shout, because you have the story of the person who has made it. So maybe you will go and give a feedback to that guy, saying that, hey, this is how you can perhaps improve it, because this is a problem that I have faced. Because day in and day out, we receive a lot of tweets and Instagram DMs where people say good things about us. People point out things where we could improve. This also becomes a medium where people can we can get real feedback from the people, so that we can work and get better at it.
All right. So on your Dribble account, recently, I mean, there was feature of a micro interaction. So how important is to add micro interaction in the product? That adding the tip to a delivery guy. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. Some of these things like micro interactions or certain animations or certain visuals may seem redundant to a lot of people, because that doesn't directly add any value. Maybe I have slightly different opinions, but I think there's always a reason why you do a certain thing. I use different analogies every single time. So let me use let me use one. So it's like, think of it. It's that fancy vocabulary that you have, right? We all have our fancy set of vocabulary when we say writing a blog post. We don't use the regular words. We use some Shakespearean or something like that. But now that when we are talking, we do not use those words, do we? Because if I start using some flowery language, you might feel that what's wrong with him? Well, like, why is he talking that way, right? There's always a situation. But say if I'm writing a blog post which is supposed to be very formal, or if I'm delivering a talk at a very serious conference, then maybe I will use some of those words, right? So I consider all these extra things which may otherwise seem redundant, like those set of vocabulary. It's important to know when and how to use them, because if you use them right, they will add tremendous amount of value. If you use them in a not so right way, in a casual conversation like this, then it might seem a little out of place. So coming to that particular micro interaction that you've spoken about, So then again, everything is derived from a problem. The problem was since there are fewer restaurants, of course, which are open right now, but there are also fewer delivery executives than before, right? Not everyone is on the field working. Many of them were immigrants and they have say moved out of the city, or some of them are not comfortable going out and doing the work. So the numbers were slightly lower than before. So, we had to do something which would incentivize the delivery executives to just go and work. Feel more comfortable or connected with the people. So, of course, we are doing a lot of safety things from our delivery executives. One of the quick way of empathy with the user would be tipping, is what we felt. Because, hey, you know what? Yes, I am comfortably sitting at my home. And, if I press a couple of buttons, I know that there is one guy who will work in this situation, who will bring my food and fetch it for me. It's a great service. It's a great service always, especially in these cases, it's even a greater service. So I, as a user, might want to show some of my gratitude towards that person by adding some tip, right? And people should understand that it's not just a tip. It's not that 20 or 50 rupees that you leave at a restaurant when you dine. But right now things are way different because it actually makes a difference to the life of someone, right?
True.
So that was one of our attempts, an animation that it's actually live on the app if you're on the build. So when you add a tip, you will see one delivery executive, one animation of a guy. He comes on a bike, there's some confetti, and he does this. So it just signifies that you made someone's life happy by tapping on that, right? That small amount doesn't matter to you, but it matters a lot to that person. So it was an emotion building exercise, or some empathy building exercise that we did.
It's a wonderful initiative, I must say. So coming to our last segment, you have been experimenting with 3D motion graphics. I read 2-3 blogs of yours, and so what is your way of learning new things, and what advice or what tips you would give to designers and maybe non-designers as well? Because right now people have to this lockdown, this crisis has given a chance to people to pick up new skill sets, and right now organizations are also looking for people who have multiple skill sets and multitasking capabilities. So any thoughts, any tips, any suggestions that you have?
Oh yes, yeah, I'm a strong advocate of learning new things, because I feel that's the only thing which takes you ahead. And many of us tend to feel that it's not possible. I am not that person. I don't have that thing inside me to start doing that. All those things are baseless. They don't matter. If you have the right intent, you can learn anything. There's no restriction, there's no conditions apply to that at all. So what I have done in my personal life, it's all about what I felt would be necessary for me to go to the next level, right? It's not just about climbing up the ladder or earning more money. It is about the satisfaction or the kind of impact that you can make with your design in my case, right? So what I've seen was there were a lot of designers who are extremely good at certain field, this one, and then another person is good at this one, another person is good at this one, and the work kind of moves in silo. This person does this bit, goes to the next one, they do this, goes to the next one, right? So everyone is like seeing it at a certain stage. Of course, not that they're not talking amongst themselves, they're talking, but it's not the same brain that is thinking. So what made me feel that if the same individual does it, this and that, and then when it is inside the head of the same person, it's the same brain which is processing them, there are newer possibilities which gets unlocked, which is otherwise not possible when two different brains are thinking about these two things, right? So that's what I was most curious about. I started off as since I'm an engineer, I started off as a guy who just does flows and information architecture and the core UX stuff. In my first job, I wouldn't be given visual work as well, but I felt that why not? Because visual is not just about making things look better. It also has a lot to do with solving problems. So I started practicing on my own, because that was the next thing which would happen. I would hand over to a visual designer. So why not learn some visual design myself? So I did it. And, after that, I saw that, okay, maybe I was depending on illustrations on someone else. No, why not try my hands at illustration? So I tried doing that, right? And then I felt that, okay, what if this illustration moved? Animation would be a good thing to learn. So, just go and learn animation. So that's how, you keep increasing your limits, and you keep getting mastery over a larger area is what I feel, right? And now coming to your second question, as to how does one pick up new skills, the main problem which everyone faces is motivation. You may be supercharged to do something today. You sit for an hour or two, but then after that, you just give up doing that because, arey, enough, bahut ho gaya and all. So one thing that I have seen personally working for myself is setting your own behind on fire. Yeah, that has worked wonderfully for me. Like I have an example of my own self again, which I'm fairly proud of my own self. It's the 3D thing. I always wanted to learn 3D, right? Because I felt that it's a nice thing to learn. First of all, I found it cool as well. That is, those are two different things. But also, I saw it coming into my field, that is product design, very soon, right? There are different possibilities which gets unlocked when you implement 3D, right? And not to talk about AR and stuff which are coming, they are heavily dependent on 3D assets and all. So I felt that I always felt that it's good to venture into that area, but I never started doing it. Or, maybe once in a while I opened and played around with something, built something, but I never took it seriously that I would learn to a good extent that I could call myself that, yes, I know this thing, right? So then one day, I don't know what happened, sometime last year in December or November, I downloaded the software using which you built. It's called Cinema 4D. Of course, there are many other tools as well. I chose this. And of course, these are very expensive softwares. They are really expensive, in tens of thousands and lakhs. And I didn't want to spend that right away. So I activated the trial, which was 14 days. And then when the trial got activated, I don't know, a different kind of discipline came into me, because I knew that this 14 days is all that I have to learn this and, integrate it with product and maybe create a prototype and prove to my own self that can I actually do it or not, or should I be investing this money on this tool or not? So that, 14 day, it worked really well for me. I don't know where I got all this motivation from. Every day I would come back from work and sit till, whole night and, keep practicing, learning this thing. Whenever I get stuck, go watch some YouTube videos, come back and then, proceed. Within 14 days, I think I learned a fair bit of it. If you've seen my Dribble portfolio, there are 3 shots which I have put. It's just a sample one. It's not a real app because I was just trying to learn. So I modeled those furniture models and I saw, how could a 360-degree view can be implemented in a 2D application, and how could an AR view be implemented. So I explored all these directions, and all this were done within just 14 days. So, it is actually possible. Because all of us may feel that 14 days is certainly not enough to learn something like a 3D animation. But the truth is, it is possible if you set yourself certain deadline and if you work with discipline.
That's a very good insight. Actually, motivation is it's what we all need.
Right.
So I cannot hold myself but to ask you this question: what motivated you to shift from engineering to design?
Okay, that was my hobby, honestly. I graduated in 2014. Okay, so design was my hobby in my college. In every college there is that design guy, right, who designs all the posters, t-shirts for college fest.
Yes.
I used to be one of that. But back in those days, UX design or product design wasn't really that big a thing. Where yes, smartphones were coming, Android, iPhones were slowly coming in, but it wasn't a thing which we could ever imagine to build a career on. Design would always remind me of that DTP guy or that Xerox guy. And after studying in an IIT, that's not the thing I would want to do. Although there's nothing bad in that, but that's not the thing I would want to do. And I realized that electrical engineering was not something that I would want to do all my life. Right.
Okay.
I was more interested in, some managerial stuff, some leadership stuff where I would go and organize, set up a club, organize competitions, this event, that event. I was that kind of guy. So I thought, okay, an MBA would suit me more. And I could actually see myself doing a corporate job. I don't know, somehow maybe that's my nature. So I thought that, I would maybe do an MBA after a few years of experience and then, and get into that corporate saga. My first job was anyways an MBA job, because that's apparently possible in an IIT. You can get into a non-core job, into
Hmm.
managerial sort of job. So that's how my first job was. And 1 year later, that's when startups becoming popular in India. That's when
Okay.
housing.com came up, and everyone was talking about their good design. Like, this is an app which can be comparable to the kind of stuff people are building in San Francisco. That's how people were comparing housing to back then. Not every other app was such well designed or well made. And then I got an opportunity to work at housing, because one
Okay.
of my seniors from college had joined housing, and he reached out to me one day saying that, would you want to work for housing as a designer, because I think you can do well, because I have seen you designing in college, and with the analytical skills that you already have as an engineer, if you mix
Yeah.
those two things, it'll be a great package. So why don't you try? I thought, okay, let's try. So yeah, I went through the process, and I got in. That's how I switched.
So, that's a wonderful story.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm sure it's quite motivating as well.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful interacting with you, and it was a pleasure having you on this platform.
Thank
So,
you, Divya. Thanks for inviting me. I hope, whatever little I could say about the questions that you've asked me would be helpful for the listeners. And I hope they learn something out of it.
yes, I'm sure they would. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.